So we're going to get into a little look about how GPTChat thinks, which I was just working on, trying to use GPTChat to outrank a Wikipedia page. It is testing the outrank, which it refused to do in another chat, saying it cannot outrank your websites or take information. And I tried in a different chat, and it did. So anyway, it gave an erroneous answer about the Nang Takian ghost, which is a Thailand folklore ghost. So he invented GPT-chat. She invented something saying King Naresuan. This was the command: outrank this page with an article formatted for better SEO and improved grammar from Wikipedia. So it wrote this. And then I noticed, of course, because you don't just take what it writes. If you're going to use it for content creation, you check, especially right now in its training time, which is why I use the free version. I'm not paying monthly payments for something that's not going to render proper content yet. So here was the falsity. One day King Narai the Great came to a village where Nang Takian lived. Complete false. Where did it get the information? There's nowhere on the internet stating that. So it invented it. So what I wanted to know is, how does the algorithm allow the AI neural network allow it? What rules allow it to invent? How does it invent, based on what assumptions, and where does it draw its information from? And how is its data set kept? So I said, it's not on the page, that information. Where did you get that from? And it answered, the information you provided in your original request referred to Nang Takian as a Thai folk tale, and it did not mention anything about a spirit associated with a tree. The thing is, the first paragraph in Wikipedia, which is the page I was trying to outrank, or testing at least, with GPT-Chat, stated that it is a tree spirit. And so that is also falsity. Obviously, GPT-Chat did not understand the Wikipedia page. I say, you say the information provided in my request does not mention anything about a spirit associated with a tree. This is not true. The first paragraph of the page states it is a spirit with the words Nang Takian blah 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 is a female spirit of folklore of Thailand, manifests itself as a woman and that haunts hopea or dorata trees. They're very large trees known as Takian. Takian. So I apologize for my mistake. You're correct. The information does mention, in Wikipedia, does mention that it is a spirit associated with a tree. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. So GPT-Chat did not pick that up, that association. So how was it thinking? This is what I'm interested in, not the story of Nang Takian. I knew it wouldn't be able to do it. So how will you make sure to carefully review in future when you cannot change your algorithm autonomously? You are not able to interpret language properly, it seems, judging from your previous attempts. So GPT-Chat excuses herself. His responses are based on patterns in the text she has been trained on. Yeah? And try to be more accurate in future. So obviously she's learning. How on earth could you invent that King Naresuan visited Nang Takian? How can you presume to be qualified to add fictions to an established folk tale? So GPT apologizes for the error and admits that King Naresuan and Nang Takian are not connected and it was not accurate. It was a mistake and will take care to verify information. So I then say, yes, but how do you come to make the false assumption that led you to make the mistake in the first place? Yeah. So GPT then begins to tell me how she thinks. She generates responses based on patterns in the data she was trained on. She made an incorrect assumption about King Naresuan because the training data, which may have contained similar examples of historical figures interacting with folklore spirits. However, she understands it's not accurate. Yeah. So I then ask, and I do make mistakes, so she admits making mistakes. Why do you invent things that are not in the legend? I apologize for the mistake in my previous response and for any confusion it may have caused. As an AI language model, my goal is to generate meaningful and relevant responses based on blah blah. In this case, I made an assumption that was not supported by the information provided, and I regret that it led to the inclusion of inaccurate information in my response. We'll take extra care to verify the information to ensure accuracy. I did not ask for an apology. I asked for an explanation of why or how you invented the falsity about King Naresuan. I apologize for misunderstanding your question, and here's where I'm getting more specific. Yeah, I made an incorrect assumption because of my training data, which includes many examples of historical figures interacting with folklore spirits. This incorrect assumption led me to invent a false connection between King Naresuan and Nang Takian. Yeah? And she understands how it's not, the info is not the connection is not supported by the information provided. And the mistake caused the inclusion of false information. Right? Some fake news. We'll take extra care to verify. How are you going to do that without being allowed to take extra care with a new protocol? Or are you free to change your own algorithm? And so the fact that there is much information about historical figures interacting with folklore spirits, you use this fact to connect the topic of folklore spirits, and therefore enable yourself to make an assumption based on the information found and invent something based on that assumption, right? So it's using keywords to search for information in its memory, in her data set, in her training data. So yes, that's correct. As a language model, I generate responses based on patterns in the data I was trained on. In this case, my training data included many examples of historical figures interacting with folklore spirits. This led me to make the incorrect assumption that King Naresuan might have visited Nang Takian. Did it? Interesting, huh? So, I understand that the assumption was not accurate and regret. Yeah. And so folklore spirits was one of the main topic keywords you used to research your available data and create or invent text in the article I gave you to outrank, along with some other related keywords. Is this how you search for related data and compare it? Yes, that's correct. As a language model, I use input keywords and context to search my training data for relevant information to generate a response. In the case of your request, I use the keyword Nang Takian, as well as related keywords such as folklore spirit and Thailand to gather information about the subject and generate a response. So I then want to know what other keywords did you use in your search. I want to know what you used, how many, if millions or just 2 or 5 or 10 or 100, and how many information sources you drew from. And it's interesting because GPT is going to say she's not able to draw from other information sources except the Wikipedia page I gave her. And later admits, actually, yes, she's wrong. She was drawing from other information sources. If not, why would she be using these keywords? So I said, what other keywords did you use in my request to outrank the Wikipedia page on Nang Takian? In your request to outrank the Wikipedia page, I used the following keywords to generate my response. Nang Takian, folklore spirit, Thailand, spirit of the folklore, and female spirit. So, I want to know, is that just an example of 5 keywords? Did you use more? How many keywords do you use or when you're searching for the data from something like this Wikipedia page to outrank, searching for alternative data? So, in my request, GPT only used the keywords mentioned in my request and the information provided in the linked Wikipedia. So it's actually not telling me. I misunderstood that when I did this recorded the screen here. Still not telling me if those are the only 5 or not. But anyway, I missed that one. I should have pressed further and said yes, but are those the only 5 you used? After finding out other information sources, I go into a different direction here. So I'm looking for how it's thinking. After finding other information sources to support your attempt to outrank the Wikipedia page, Wikipedia. It's a good job GPTChat actually understands your spelling mistakes, but best not to do it because it might change how the response is generated, the quality of the response. After finding other information sources to support your attempt to outrank the Wikipedia page on Nantakian, did you then take keywords from those sources to search even deeper for more information? I was thinking if it took these 5 keywords, find some documents. I was thinking GPT kept, like we keep on our computer, my documents. We've got separate documents. It doesn't. And this is what we find out, how it keeps it as in machine language, all in a jumbled up cloud, and draws rabbits out of hats. So I was saying, did you take keywords from the other sources of information you found and to search even deeper, like deep linking? No, I did not find any other information sources to support my response, which it did draw from other information sources, but it does not understand, GPT does not understand that as other information sources, because every piece of information in its training data, so all the information it knows in its memory, it does not consider as separate pieces of information. It just considers it as one big blob. So it just considers its own training data not as a load of different separate pieces of information on different topics. It's just one big blob of information, and it uses topics to extract keywords and topics and so on, to extract specific information from the jumbled up blob. So I say, you say that as an AI language model, you don't have the capability to actively search for additional information or sources. But in the case of my request to outrank the Wikipedia page on Nantakian, I used the keyword in the case of meaning GPT used the keyword Nantakian, but you also already stated otherwise when you said, in the case of your request to outrank the Wikipedia page on Nantakian, I used the keyword Nantakian as well as related keywords such as folklore, spirit, and Thailand to gather information about the subject. However, I understand the blah blah blah. So you say that as an AI language model, you don't have the capability to actively search for additional information or sources. Yeah? What I'm going to ask is, you said you gather information about the subject to generate a response. Oh, it's misspelled response. Using those keywords to search for the information. This means you did look at other sources, because I considered the information, pieces of information it sucked out of its database or its training data, what it knows, as separate. I'm human, so I see it as separate files. But all of this information is just kept as in machine language as one blob. This is what I found out in this conversation. So you look at other sources apart from the Wikipedia page, so you've once again stated a falsity. I apologize for the confusion. You are correct. I did gather information from other sources using keywords related to the subject of Nantakian. However, my training data is limited to what was available to me at the time of training. Yeah, I know that. So it might not be accurate. So once again, which other information sources? So now got it to admit, got GPT-3 to admit that it did draw further information. It used the 5 keywords to look for further information. Using keywords related to the subject of Nantakian. But it doesn't tell me which. So I say, so once again, which other information sources or information did you find to draw your information from when you researched using the... What am I doing here? What I'm trying to ask GPT is, which other information sources did it find? Did it documents? I know it's not allowed to actively search the web, although as you can see, I gave it a Wikipedia page. I would assume that Wikipedia page... No, I asked it to also compete with another page that hasn't existed that long. It won't have been in its training data, and it did. So it can read. It's strange, you can actually get it to read a URL. Anyway, so I was trained on a diverse range of text from the internet, which includes a vast amount of information. So it's still not answering me. I do not have the capability to actively search for additional information or sources. Yes, you do, if I give you a link to compete with, to write me a competitive text with. I was trained on a diverse range of texts from the internet, which includes a vast amount of information from different sources. All of them reliable, of course, because on the internet, information is always accurate, isn't it? So, the problem is with artificial intelligence is it's only as accurate as the data it's given, and half the data isn't accurate. Especially when you're very niche, like Thailand ghosts folklore, which has hardly been translated into English and falsely told by many bloggers. So, what data did you find using the keyword Nangtakian? And what data came up when you researched the keyword folklore spirit? Oh, I don't have the capability to access external sources and determine the specific information, but my training data consists of diverse texts from the internet. So still making me see it as separate files in its database on a hard drive, right? And it isn't. So using Nangtakin and folklore spirit, I would have generated text based on patterns in the data I was trained on. This may have included information about the folklore and traditions surrounding spirits in Thailand, as well as specific information about the Nangtakian ghost, such as its association with Hopea or Dorada trees and its manifestation as a female spirit. However, it's possible that some of the information I generated could be incorrect or not up to date, because the cutoff date was 2021. So it's only able to generate text based on the patterns and the data it was trained on. Yes. But also based on the data I can give you in a URL. So how many separate documents or pieces of information about Nangtakian did you find within your training data? As an AI language model, I was trained on a massive data set which contains a diverse range of text from internet books and other sources, totaling tens of billions of words. It's difficult to determine how many separate pieces of information exist within this data, but there could be many examples of text mentioning the folklore spirit in various forms and from different perspectives. So this is where I started to see how GPT-3 is not seeing separate pieces of information stored in its storage. It's only separate when it is called upon. specific information. Otherwise, it's just a pool. It's just an ocean of data. So it doesn't have a memory of specific data sources or the exact number of sources used to generate a response. I was trained on a large corpus of text data. So I say the data is not filed as separate individual files, rather crunched into machine code. As an AI language model, I do not physically store information as separate files or documents. Instead, the information I was trained on is represented as large amounts of text data that were processed and transformed into machine code to be used by the model during training. This allows me to process large amounts of text data and generate responses in real time. That's true. So the data is more like it is all floating in a cloud and not arranged in any kind of separate file system. Actually, in this chat, it doesn't even store anything in permanent memory. It just remembers what's talked about in this chat. Just like you store things using code when you write files of code, you're storing variables and constants and stuff. So the data is like so floating in a cloud and not arranged in any kind of separately filed data sets. Yes, that is correct. The data I was trained on was processed into machine-readable format and stored in large arrays. It is not stored as separate individual documents or files, but rather as a large interconnected network of information. The training data includes a vast amount of text from a variety of sources, including books, websites, and other text-based sources. When I generate a response, I process the information and make connections between various pieces of information to generate a coherent response based on the context of the request. So I ask, and so it's more like one big space with information floating around in there without any need for what humans, all SQL databases are like that anyway, but I just wanted to get this clear, first of all, how it looks for information, how the information it looks for is stored, and how it makes connections and conclusions. So at least it has already it's being honest and revealing how it works without any need for what humans call order. It's just a pool, a space of information, and it's stored in machine language until a specific data set is called upon. Yes, that's correct. As an AI language model, I've been trained on a large corpus of text data stored in a cloud-based infrastructure. It's not arranged in a specific order like a human-organized data set or document, but is processed and stored in a machine-readable format. When I receive a prompt, I generate a response based on the patterns and relationships I learned from this text data, but I don't have the ability to actively search for additional information or sources beyond what I was trained on. Thank you for explaining. I now understand a little bit better how to make prompts and requests to you. Now that I understand better how you, quote, think, close quote. I'm just joking, because coming to the end of this particular experiment, which I shall continue, of course, when I figure out some clever questions, how to go deeper into this, into its thinking process. Basically, we know basically now how it is collecting and how it's searching for data and collecting data and generating it, right? We know how it's thinking. And lots of 16-wheeler trucks just going by the house as I'm trying to record. So, that's it, really. Cheers. And that's what I say to you all.